Emergency Management Associates. My name's Ron Tyler. I'm the president of Emergency Management Associates. We're coming to you from our headquarters, approximately 392 miles west of Kitty Hawk Beach, North Carolina. I'm not on the computer right now because we are having thunderstorms and heavy rain outside. I don't want to damage or take a chance on damaging our computers and other things set up here in our offices. I want to come on the air right now to tell you about it, and also to tell you that we've had some earthquakes around the world. One of the largest earthquakes that happened today is in Peru, over in the Andes Mountains of Peru. A magnitude 5.3 earthquake struck near Huaychaque, Peru. Today, at the depth of 10 kilometers deep, 6.2 miles deep. There was at least one other 3.7 aftershock that was short to the main seismic activity. Peru's government has expanded a 60-day state of emergency earthquake and others that happened before this. This follows a larger 5.5 earthquake, larger earthquake that hit near Huaychaque region on July 18th, approximately 2 weeks later. That July 18th earthquake, 5.5, unalived at least 5 to 6 people and injured over 30 others, and destroyed dozens of traditional adobe homes. Again, destroyed dozens of traditional adobe homes, unreinforced masonry. That's what happens when we have unreinforced during an earthquake. Those earthquakes dissolve those homes. Now, today's event was centered about 7 kilometers south-southwest Huaychaque, Peru, at a shallow depth of 10 kilometers, 6.2 miles deep. Okay? This is a national emergency in Peru. 2 large earthquakes have struck here in Peru during the last 2 weeks in the Andes Mountains. Okay? Now, what I'm not able to show you is a map in the Andes Mountains showing you communities. I'm talking very small cities in the Andes Mountains there in eastern Peru. And this area has been devastated. Okay? I'm going to tell you that. I'm going to show you a map of this area tomorrow on the broadcast. I'm going to try to go on the broadcast earlier tomorrow because we're not able to do it right now and show you what has happened in that area. Okay? Structural damage is heavy damage to traditional rustic adobe homes, schools, and roads across school districts such as Congas Bayo and Huaychaque, Peru. Several structural cracks and damage to historic 16th century structures, including the Santiago de Leon Church in Congas Bajo. Okay? The July 18th earthquake left at least 5 to 6 people dead, like I said, and over 150 people injured, and roughly 300 residents displaced. 300 citizens in Peru displaced. Okay? Today's assessment of this earthquake remains to be seen as ongoing. Okay? Now, it has happened in just offshore from Oregon today. Okay? Again, I'm going to cover this in great detail tomorrow on our broadcast. A magnitude 4.9 5.0 earthquake. 4.9 5.0 earthquake because USGS is calling this a 4.9 earthquake. 4.9 earthquake. Okay? They don't call them moderate earthquakes in USGS terms. They call them light earthquakes. Light earthquakes. If that's a light earthquake, like I said before, what does it mean? Because you have 3.9 small earthquakes, 3.0, 3.9 small earthquakes. They call it light earthquakes. There's nothing as a light earthquake. 4.5 to 4.9 upper magnitude 4 earthquakes can cause a lot of damage. I have discussed this before, such as places in Los Angeles with a 4.5 earthquake that I went to, was asked to go to after the earthquake struck, left water mains and gas mains blown all over Los Angeles, left windows shattered all over Los Angeles, including homes and businesses. Homes and business windows were shattered completely out after a 4.5 earthquake. USGS is now trying to say these are light earthquakes. There's nothing light about major damage. Okay. Now this earthquake today off of Port Orford, Oregon, was a depth of 10 kilometers, 6.2 miles deep. Okay. Probably 79 miles southwest of Port Orford, Oregon, I'm sorry. Okay. Now, while recent notable regional activity included 0+ events earlier this year, today's earthquake in the Pacific triggered no tsunami because in order to have tsunami result from the earthquake, the earthquake must be as a result of at least a 6.5 magnitude earthquake. This was not that. This is a 4.9 5.0 earthquake. Okay? It's not sufficient to. These frequent moderate earthquakes typically hit west of the main Cascade subduction zone, and that's what happened today. Just barely west of the main Cascade subduction zone. Okay? A series of smaller 4.0 and 4.6 events preceded this already this week along the Blanco fracture zone area. Okay? Now, I briefly want to talk about earthquakes in Northern California as well. Okay? Over further south from the Mendocino Fault. Further south from the Mendocino Fault, guys, we've had another earthquake. Okay? Last week, we had a 4.5 earthquake in the same area near Cabello, California. We had 3 earthquakes, a triple couplet. Triple couplet, guys. 3 earthquakes in California. Today's magnitude 4.2 earthquake is the kind of thing most Californians sleep through. Okay? It's the kind of thing most Californians sleep through. Rattles a few windows, knocks a coffee mug off a shelf, and by lunchtime, nobody's talking about it. So Northern California actually means something. Okay? When we have an earthquake like this, it means something. This 4.2 earthquake strike was it not in just some random patch. It struck at the exact scene. The San Andreas Fault just barely to the west, and 2 other faults, the Macama Fault and the Bartlett Springs Fault, come together. Okay? The San Andreas Fault further to the west, and 2 other faults, the Macama and the Bartlett Springs Fault, come close together. Okay? Now this area is this junction has stayed very quiet up until this time for the past 26 years. Some of the most dangerous faults in the continent come close together. We've talked about this before, just south of San Francisco, where the San Andreas Fault, just west of the Hayward Fault, and further just barely to the east is the Calaveras Fault. 3 of the most dangerous faults on Earth. Those 3 faults, the San Andreas, the Hayward, and the Calaveras Fault, are 3 of the most dangerous faults in the world. Fault systems react. We've talked about this before. Fault systems can react. We've talked about when the San Andreas Fault misbehaves in Southern California. All the other androgynous like faults all over Los Angeles Valley are also going to get hit. They're going to echo that seismic energy from the San Andreas Fault all over the greater Los area. Ancillary faults. Okay? That's what happens when other ancillary faults come together with other major faults. Fault systems can interact, but scientists cannot accurately predict when or where a major earthquake is going to occur. Continuous monitoring Continuous monitoring helps improve hazard assessments and also helps us prepare for emergency preparedness in these areas. As I said before, everyone needs to prepare for earthquakes. Everyone needs to have an emergency preparedness plan. Okay? If you don't know what I'm talking about, go back through previous programs where in the topic of the program, it says emergency preparedness or emergency preparedness plans or emergency preparedness kits. You need to go through those past programs and look at those. That way you can prepare for earthquakes or any other kind of hazard. Okay? Any other kind of hazard. This is very important. This is very important, guys. Now, because of this earthquake today, this 4.2 earthquake, scientists are data while they're still emphasizing the earthquake forecast remains an active area of research rather than exact science. Okay? I've tried forecasting earthquakes before. I've only been spot on a couple of times. Spot on. Scientists cannot even do that because they're not looking at what I'm looking at. Okay? Scientists are not looking at the big picture. They're looking at specific sources of seismic waves. That's what you're not wanting to do. You want to look at the big picture. You want to pull out the big picture. Okay? We have Kenzo here. We have Josh Kelly. We have DB70G7023. And then the company here in the chat. I'm sure we have many other people here as well. Okay? Now, these three earthquakes, the same fault, the same week, and one of them just broke a record. That record stood for entire modern seismic history in the region. What is happening right now underneath Northern California is not normal. It's not even routine background noise. Okay? USGS calls this background noise. It's not. Sometimes people scroll past and forget about what happens as if it doesn't matter. Because these earthquakes are seemingly right beneath their feet. Moderate 4.5 earthquakes. Okay? USGS says they're light earthquakes as if nothing needs to be done. But guys, again, we need to keep our eyes on the big picture. These are not light earthquakes as USGS describes them as of last year. These are still moderate earthquakes that can cause a lot of damage. And these moderate earthquakes are larger and possibly even more dangerous earthquakes to come. And those earthquakes could happen at any time. I'm just throwing that out there for you. Okay? Scientists have been watching for years at all these earthquakes that happened off the coast and on the coast, all the way down in Northern California. Okay? So let's get this straight right now. I'm not here to give you fluff. I'm not here to give you filler. I'm going to talk about the hard facts of what happened in Northern California this week and since July 18th. Okay? Northern California's earthquake problem got significantly worse. And what all of this activity is actually pointing towards, we need to. Let's start with what just happened this week. Because what happened this week sets the stage for everything that follows. We got hit with an earthquake triplet. Not a couplet, like I said just a few minutes ago, but a triplet. Near Cabello and Mendocino County in Northern California. A magnitude 4.4 earthquake struck the area. Then a 3.9 earthquake followed. This comes right on the heels of another 4.4 earthquake that hit on July 10th. Okay? Also on the Bartlett Springs Fault. And a magnitude 4.2 that rattled Cloverdale on July 28th. These earthquakes didn't happen. These significant earthquakes within weeks of each other. on the same fault network. And when you pull back the picture, sitting on the record books, just before these earthquakes struck, then the picture becomes genuinely alarming. Like I said, you have to pull back and look at the big picture. Then what has been happening during the past few weeks becomes genuinely alarming. Okay? On June 24th this year, a magnitude 5.6 earthquake struck Yucaipa and Willits, California in Mendocino County. Okay? June 24th this year, a large magnitude 5.6 earthquake struck near Yucaipa and Willits, California, Mendocino County. That earthquake was not just big. According to seismologists, that magnitude 5.6 large earthquake was the largest earthquake ever recorded in Macama on the Macama Fault. That 5.6 earthquake was the largest earthquake ever recorded on the Macama Fault in the entire span of modern seismic monitoring. In the entire span of seismic monitoring. Throw that out there. That's why we need to understand what's actually going on. The biggest event ever in this area. Now, just weeks after that historic rupture of 5.6, we are now getting magnitude 4.4 earthquakes popping off on the neighboring Bartlett Springs Fault. This is a sequence of events, a consequence that demands we sit down and have a serious conversation about what's actually happening. So let's first talk about these two faults, because understanding what they are is essential to understanding why this matters so much. The Macama Fault and the Bartlett Springs Fault are both major branches of the San Andreas Fault. The Macama Fault and the Bartlett Springs Fault, just a little bit further to the east, are major branches of the San Andreas Fault. Major branches of San Andreas Fault, guys. That's why all this comes together right now. The San Andreas Fault gets all the fame. Okay? Fame. It's a big name that everyone knows. Fault and the Macama Fault runs right alongside it, almost parallel to it, stretching throughout the Northern California coast range area, miles downrange towards San Francisco. Okay, the Macama and the Bartlett Springs Fault runs 100 miles to the south, almost to San Francisco. These are not small. They're not minor. The Bartlett Fault runs from around Clear Lake Volcano all the way up toward Round Valley Reservation. Round Valley Volcano Reservation. The strike-slip fault. Strike-slip fault where both sides of the fault are moving. One in one direction, not one to the other. Just exactly like the San Andreas Fault does. That's why this is so important. Okay? Now officially, okay? Yes, I'm going to talk officially now. According to USGS, this fault is considered capable of a major 7.0 earthquake. The Bartlett Springs and the Macama Faults are capable of a major 7.0 earthquake. This is not a drill. This is not a theoretical model that someone may run on a computer file. Okay? That is an assessment sitting in the current USGS database right now. The Macama Fault runs through Sonoma and Mendocino counties. Okay? It runs through Mendocino counties, passing through areas near Yucaipa and Willits. Okay? It's situated between the San Andreas Fault to the west, Bartlett Springs Fault to the east. Again, the San Andreas Fault on the west, fault systems that are related to the San Andreas Fault. And as of June 24th this year, fault earthquake ever recorded in its history, the 5.6 earthquake. What is essentially a significant earthquake is how it ruptured. The focal mechanism. Remember the little balls? East or northeast to southwest. Okay? Focal mechanism, which is essentially the geological fingerprint of the fault moves during an earthquake. Strike slip fault. Clean direct fault rupture of 5.6 in motion. That earthquake struck at a shallow depth. That's why it was so widely felt across the entire region. Like I said, we talked about shallow earthquakes before. Shallow earthquakes felt over a larger area. Okay? People did report strong shaking near the epicenter. The shaking was felt across that area all the way over into Nevada. And in the days followed, something else happened that caught the attention of scientists and residents of the area alike. New springs, water springs popped up. New springs have been dry for years, started flowing. Wells had been producing normally, suddenly doubled or tripled their output. This is what happens when a significant earthquake reshapes the underground plumbing of the landscape, opening up new fractures in the ground and shifting the water to the table. Okay? The earthquake reconnected underground pathways sealed for hundreds of years. Physically moved. The earth in the Northern California area around Cabello area moved in a great big huge way. You can see the water coming out of the ground now. Okay? Residents have reported water. We look at the timeline and also the geology together. Okay? In September 2025, almost a year ago, a magnitude earthquake struck Berkeley, California, northeast of the San Francisco Bay. 4.3 earthquake struck Berkeley, California. We reported on that seismic sequence as well when it happened. Okay? At the same place further southeast from between the Hayward and the Calaveras. We reported on that as well. Okay? There was a magnitude 4.0 earthquake here. Okay? There's also 4.0 earthquake that hit near December 25th or December 2025. This year in January, a magnitude 4.0 hit, a 4.4 earthquake hit near the same Bartlett Springs area. Okay, another 4.4 hitting into the same Bartlett Springs region. Looking at all these earthquakes in that same area during this last year, nearly since September last year, we have to take a look at the whole picture here. Okay? Then, after January 26th, or 2026, 5.6 in June, which is historic on the Macama Fault. Then we have the 4.2 in Cloverdale on July 28th. 4.4 moderate quake on the Bartlett Springs Fault, July 10th. And now in early August, 4.4 and a 3 hitting Cabello. When you draw all these on the map, you see a clear progressively northward and increasing in frequency. Okay? We see an increase in magnitude of earthquake. We talked about this before. An increase in magnitude of the number of earthquakes that are occurring. Okay? About earthquakes increasing. The strength of the earthquakes is also increasing, guys. Random noise does not organize itself into a geographic with escalating intensity over a compressed timeline. It doesn't do that. Okay? How about this earthquake today? It's so striking from a historic standpoint. Okay? Now tomorrow when I get my computers back up and running and we don't have a bunch of storms hitting us, I'll show you this on the map. It'll make a whole lot of sense. Now I want to welcome Kathy Paina here from Hawaii, a friend of our program for a long time. Kathy, thank you so much for being here. Kathy sent us a donation to our program before. She's also sent us a gift kit, okay? Downstairs, she sent us some Hawaii sand from the beaches on the Big Island, which we greatly appreciate. She also sent us travel bags. We greatly appreciate it. Okay? So Kathy, I want you to know we're still using those. We'd love to to our family room downstairs, and we appreciate those little bags because we can put our stuff in it and go away for a week. Greatly appreciate that, Kathy. Thank you for your help. Kathy's saying they're still cleaning up from the floods they had a while ago, and they have some big leaks in their ceiling. Kathy, I hope you're going to be all right. Right. Yes, we covered those floods in Hawaii before. We covered the storms that hit the Big Island and the other islands. And now you guys possibly are going to get a hurricane in the near future coming in from the west coast of the United States. Okay? No, the hurricane did not hit the west coast, but it was off the coast, headed towards the northwest, towards Hawaii. Okay? Now, I don't know whether it's going to hit Hawaii, but it's headed in that direction. Okay? Now, like I said, we're going to cover this more directly tomorrow and show you these earthquakes on the map. I'm never going to talk about today. Number one, I wanted to come on the air about earthquakes because we weren't on the air yesterday because of the storms. I want to come on a device here to tell you what's going on. Again, this afternoon we're getting hit by more storms, rain, and thunder here, so I didn't want to bring up my computers and possibly damage your computers. Guys, I hope you have a good night. We love you very much. Come see us tomorrow sometime after 4 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. Emergency Management Associates. Till then, have a good night. Take care, everybody. Please know that we love you. Enjoy. See you soon.